Good morning. Thank you for joining the Road Home 16th annual, but first ever virtual Homes for Families fundraising breakfast. We wish we could be together and enjoy good company and breakfast. But whatever you're snacking on while watching this will have to be the breakfast part of this event. However, we still hope you learn about the important work being done at the Road Home and join us in striving to end family homelessness in Dane County. My name is Georgia, and some of you may remember me from last year's breakfast. I'm excited to be back in this format, and I'd like to start by thanking our generous sponsors who helped make this virtual event possible. Thank you to our visionary level sponsors, CUNA Mutual Group, ProAccess, and UW Health, Unity Point, Meriter, and Courts. Thank you also to our champion level sponsors, whose logos are on the screen. We also thank our partner level sponsors as well. And thank you to our advocate level sponsors. In a year of such uncertainty, these sponsors have really stepped up and provided a level of certainty on the way toward meeting our annual fundraising goal. I'd also like to thank the groups of people listed in the program: the Road Home staff, board, donors, volunteers, and our virtual table hosts. The theme for this year's breakfast is Strong Families and Strong Community. I am honored to be back to provide an update on my daughter Azaria and I. For those of you who don't know me, I'd like to share a little bit of our story and how the Road Home helped us on our journey. I was referred to the Road Home by ECI while I was navigating income and housing stability within the intersections of being a new mom, single parent, and domestic violence victim. My case manager, Kiana, was amazing at helping us through those tough times and connecting us to the resources we needed. My daughter and I thank God daily for our housing stability and better physical and mental health. And in the past year, we've maintained housing going on 5 years. I transitioned into a permanent role at United Way of Dane County, and Azaria is successfully making it through virtual learning. My daughter Azaria and I's journey to housing stability displays the amazing work and impact the Road Home provides to our community. Thank you again to the Road Home staff for all the hard work they do daily. And thank you everyone attending this event for taking the first step in learning how you can help decrease family homelessness in Dane County. From here, I'd like to introduce Kristen, the Executive Director at the Road Home.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, I've been involved with the Road Home for 15 years, and without a doubt, this has been one of the most challenging years. It's also been a year that I've learned the most and have been the most determined to end family homelessness. If you're new to the Road Home, our staff works tirelessly to end family homelessness by trying to create more affordable housing opportunities and by providing support services to families in order for them to reach their goals. In March, when the effects of COVID-19 reached Dane County, we had to completely change our daily operations, like many of you. Home visits couldn't happen in homes. Applying for apartments took even longer than usual, as offices were closed and apartment showings were halted. Schools and childcare centers closed, forcing some parents to leave their jobs to be home with their children, jobs that were often deemed essential at grocery stores, restaurants, or caring for others. Family goal plans quickly changed from trying to get a driver's license to figuring out how to get laptops and internet and other needed equipment to ensure children could do online learning. While almost everybody in Dane County has been affected by COVID in some way, families in our programs seem to have been some of the hardest hit. Racial disparities that we have always known existed seem to be magnified in education, employment, health, and housing. I couldn't be more proud of the staff for making changes on the fly, for turning their kitchens into offices, for somehow learning how to juggle working from home with their own children at home doing schoolwork, and still being supportive to families we're serving at the Road Home. Meetings continued to happen via phone, text, email, and video chat. The work kept happening. Children were set up for school, families were moving from homelessness to housing, and while it wasn't easy, our staff really never missed a beat. The community, many of you, generously donated COVID relief funds to help keep a roof over families' heads, to keep their lights on, and food on the table. Others donated masks to help keep people safe. The response was incredible and showed we're stronger as a community when our neighbors are strong, safe, and healthy. We were all getting used to the new normal of our service delivery, and then George Floyd was murdered on May 25th. Years of pain and anger erupted from our Black staff and many families we serve. Almost 85% of the families in our programs are people of color. I will never forget the fear some expressed to me for themselves and their own children. And most of all, how tired they were, just completely exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. While I had been told by multiple Black and brown people that they consider me an ally, I knew I personally had a lot more to learn about myself. And I knew our agency could do more to combat decades of racist housing policies, going back to redlining, which systematically prevented people of color from getting home loans, which then resulted in less generational wealth and other opportunities. And I know our community can do more. My white privilege permeates everywhere I go, every single day. I've heard over and over how Black and brown tenants are grateful for their new homes, yet often don't feel like they really truly belong in their neighborhood or community. As a white woman, not only have I never felt like I didn't belong where I've lived, but I never once really even had to think about whether I felt like I belonged. In my 15 years in Madison, I've lived in 3 apartments near campus and now own a home on the east side. In all 4 places, my neighbors have been primarily white. All of my landlords were white. All of the local businesses and restaurants in my neighborhoods are primarily white owned and operated. All of this leads to feeling comfortable without even realizing it. And comfort doesn't usually yield urgency. I believe housing justice is a form of racial justice, and it takes a truly strong community for all families to feel like they belong. This year's theme goes both ways, in my opinion. When more families are housed, employed, and healthy, that's good for everybody in the community. Strong families, strong community. And the other way is true too. We also need to have strong communities first in order to have strong families at their best. That's why every person watching this, no matter your race, occupation, or socioeconomic status, has a role to play. The successes and hardships we experience as a family, as a city, and as a country are all interconnected. The impact of the coronavirus is a perfect example of this. To my fellow white folks watching, the racial injustices we see today, including housing injustices, might not be our fault, but it is our responsibility to work toward greater justice, to ensure every child has a home and has the opportunity to thrive and not just survive. That's what the Road Home is committed to. Through all the challenges this year, we maintained our high quality programs and services, and we have been busy expanding our programming. Last year, we served 229 families, including 550 children, with 95% of families maintaining stable housing. This summer, 8 families moved into Fair Oaks Apartments, and 10 more will be moving into units on Schrader Road this winter, both partnerships with Stonehouse Development. 5 families will be housed in a new permanent supportive housing program starting in a few weeks, and will be providing services to more than 50 families who are receiving a new type of Section 8 voucher thanks to partnerships with our city and county housing authorities. These new opportunities for affordable housing couldn't have come at a better time because the family shelter system is overwhelmed. 60 families are living in shelter hotels with more than 40 on a waiting list. And I think it's fair to predict that as the economic effects of COVID continue, we will likely see many more families becoming homeless in 2021. It's hard to social distance if you don't have a home. It's hard to work from home if you don't have a home or a job that allows for working remotely. And it's hard to do school from home without a home. We have all been impacted by COVID in some way. I realize jobs have been lost and people are hurting. Now more than ever though, this is a time we can strengthen each other, strengthen our community, and strengthen the chances families with children have for a safe place to lay their head at night, to eat a meal together, and to do their schoolwork. We are all in this together, and I hope you can join us in whatever way you can. You'll now be introduced to Ari in a video before hearing from him directly. I think you'll see he is doing his part to strengthen our community. I'm excited for you to hear from him. Thank you. It has to be that two-way street of both you need strong communities to make strong families and strong families to make strong communities. And the more that we could all work together toward that vision, I think our community will be stronger.
I have a beautiful son. When he was born, that was the beginning of my journey. I knew I had to change things around. And I knew I had to set a good example for him. And that was just part of raising a child the right way, is just having an adequate place to live, a decent neighborhood, so that he can have things to aspire from.
I met Aurelius when I first got hired into the Road Home, because he was one of the first families that I started working with after I got hired. From right off the bat, I could just tell he was an extremely hard worker. He's dedicated to improving his life. And so being part of the Housability program, it's a holistic approach. So it's really making sure that he can achieve the goals that he would like to achieve, and working with his family to feel safe and comfortable in his housing, making sure that he is reaching the steps that he wants to take to better his life.
When I met Justin, I just signed up for school. My experience at Madison College was pretty tough. And that's why I was glad to have Justin at that point in time. He would not just talk me through the situation, he would walk me through it. If I had a situation at school, he would give me his advice on how he would handle it.
When I first worked with Aurelius, he was living in Madison, and he'd always talked about how difficult it was because he'd see Aurelius every other week and have to drive him back and forth to school from Sun Prairie, from north side of Madison, which it was always an issue.
So I decided once I did graduate, I would move to Sun Prairie. The only difficult part was just being accepted into an apartment because of my background.
We wanted to basically put that out front when we were applying for housing. My thought was that if we can show landlords that Aurelius was working really hard to do different things in his life than what his past showed, that he could prove to be a really reliable tenant and be a really hardworking member of his community, which he is.
We got ahead of it, and now I live in a 2-bedroom apartment that I'm pleased with. That's very close to the bus line that'll get my son to school with no problem. I graduated with magna cum laude, 3.72. I'm also a member of the Honor Society, Phi Theta Kappa.
So after Aurelius got his technical degree in business entrepreneurship, he loved the idea of helping people who are experiencing homelessness. And he liked the idea of kind of doing what my role was just supporting families in any way they can.
I just felt like, hey, why not become a peer specialist? Why not be a housing counselor? I believe being a peer specialist, I would have the advantage. Because of what I endured in my life, the traumatization of being homeless, I think those experiences will come in handy for me.
Aurelius is a good example of strong families, strong communities, because he has shown over and over again that he is willing to do whatever it takes to better his family. And then using that employment, using that education experience, he is trying to give back to his community. He's also learning that to give back to his community to make everyone else stronger around him.
Stable housing is the cornerstone. Without having stable housing, I don't think none of this would be possible. Having stable housing is very important for my son. He knows he can always come home, have a bed to sleep in, food to eat, and a loving parent that's there waiting for him. Good morning. My name is Aurelius, and I also go by Ari. I'm the proud father of a 17-year-old son. Aurelius and I like to talk to you today about the impact stable housing and support services have had on our lives. In 2017, I was staying in Safe Haven, a program through Porch Life, and I got to know Marjorie, the manager there, while living, volunteering, and working in the kitchen in Safe Haven. She and I had a positive experience, and she helped me get into the Housability program when it was an opening. Housability is a joint program between the YWCA, the Salvation Army, and the Road Home. When I first met Olivia, the Housing Ability Coordinator at the time, she was helpful in finding a place of residence for me. And a couple of weeks later, I met Justin, my case manager in the program. I was hesitant to work with him at first because I was a private guy and I am my own man. I have been told my whole life what to do. But he turned out to be a really cool guy. He took the time to listen to me, to what I want to do in the future, and to the things I needed some help with, and we got along real well. I explained to him I wanted to have my own business and be my own boss. Olivia had actually referred me to Madison College in the short time I worked with her. And then Justin helped me a lot once school started. I hadn't really been to school in over 20 years. I got my GED while in prison and hadn't really gone to school since grammar school. So you can imagine my shock at how things had turned from paper and raising your hand to answering questions to everything being on computers. I didn't really have good computer skills at the time, but Justin walked me through it. He helped me navigate my laptop, and he helped break everything down for me into smaller steps to help me learn. I'm proud to say I stuck through it all and graduated from Madison College with my degree in business and entrepreneurship in December with magna cum laude honors. When I first entered the Housing Ability Program, I had 50% custody of my son, Derilius. My place was in Madison, but he was going to school in Sun Prairie, so it was hard to get him there every day. Eventually, I got full custody of him, and I am so thankful for that. My son, Derilius, means everything to me. He's my inspiration and motivation. Everything that I do with him in mind. Derilius is very shy, but a good kid. He's into basketball and video games, mostly video games. He wants to be a video game designer or web developer. Not only is it my job, but it's very important that I'm able to provide a stable place of residence for my son so he'll have a chance to make his dreams a reality. After a couple of years in the House Ability Program, Justin told me about a new program called Moving Up, where I could get a Section 8 voucher to ensure affordable housing in this tough rental market. I applied and was approved for the program. But finding a landlord to rent to me wasn't easy. It was a process. I had an eviction on my record and had a criminal background, so nobody wanted to rent to me. Justin had the idea to get ahead of this by making a packet to turn in with my application, showing that I'm no longer that person who takes part in criminal activity and I could be trusted to rent to and not have to worry. This was another way he really walked me through situations. Justin doesn't just talk through situations, he actually walked through situations with me. We finally found the place after months of looking. I was able to move to Sun Prairie so Derilius didn't have to move schools and could stay near his friends. It was such a relief. And by moving into the Moving Up program, that allowed another family who was currently homeless to have a spot in the House Ability Program. Things have been going pretty well for us lately, and I try to give back as much as possible. I recently started classes to become a certified peer specialist. I know there's a need for this, and I know addiction is like a disease. You can't overcome it completely, and it's always hard not to go back to that place, but you have to take it one day at a time. And I know how hard it can be when you're going through a homeless situation by yourself. So when you're also dealing with anything else, it can feel hopeless and impossible. Before having stable housing, I experienced homelessness a couple of times. But it turns out if you let somebody on your ride with you, it helps. And looking back at those situations, I probably wouldn't have become homeless again if I had Justin back then. I'm also on the Lived Experience Committee of the Homeless Service Consortium. Takesha and Dominique, staff at the Royal Home, got me connected to this committee. I hope to make a difference in the way housing and services are provided to people who are homeless. I know the psychological trauma can cause, and I want to improve the system any way that I can. Derilius is doing great. He always tells me how happy he is that he no longer has to wake up so early or wonder if he'll be late for school because of a car issue, and how happy he is that he's able to see his friends on a regular basis. God has truly blessed us. Now that my family, my son and I, are stable and stronger, we're in a position to make other people's systems in our community stronger. Justin walked through the good days and the bad days with me, and I want to do the same for others. In 5 years, I see myself being a successful peer, helping to change lives, and the owner of a successful lawn care service provider. I see my son Derilius in college or a trade school working towards a degree in computer technology, but that would be his choice. And whatever choice he makes, I will be by his side, helping him strive to be the best that he can be. I am confident we'll reach these goals, thanks to stable housing and the support we receive. Thank you for listening to my stories, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Ari, for your inspirational story. And your journey is a great example of how the Road Home, its dedicated staff, and especially Justin with his great partnership with you and everyone who supports the organization are working together to ensure that every child has a home. When we think of strong families and strong communities, nobody embodies that more than you and your son, Ari. Thanks again. Well, good morning. My name is Jeff Swab, and I am excited and honored to serve on the board of directors for the Road Home. I want to thank you for taking time today, this morning, to hear about what the Road Home is doing in your community. This is definitely not the breakfast program we had in mind, or the one some of you may be used to in the past, but we appreciate your agility, and we're glad you're able to join us as we talk about the mission this morning for the Road Home. I think about how we have all adjusted to gatherings and how we've supported each other during these challenging times. From weddings to graduations to birthdays, we've seen these all being done virtually. So many important dates, so many important programs have been celebrated differently than we have in the past. And today is no different. The fact that we are here virtually does not change the importance of the message, and it definitely does not change the importance of the work. Many people joining us today have been impacted by COVID, and COVID, like many other challenges, have given us the opportunity to come together as a community. We have strong families on this call. We have strong families involved in the Road Home, and these strong families build strong communities. That's why we're here today, to ensure that the Road Home is here to serve families with children and to expand the possibilities for the future. My connection to the Road Home began in 2016 when my wife was invited to attend this yearly breakfast. And she came home and talked to me about what an amazing organization the Road Home is and how we could both be huge advocates for the work that they're doing and to help end homelessness with families with children. The work that Kristen and her staff are doing on a daily basis amazes me every day. To see this staff of outstanding people who are passionate about ending homelessness in our community. The Road Home has a great reputation in the community, and over the past 2 years, their reputation has spread across the United States. As I look back at the impact that the Road Home has made over the past 7 years, it's truly inspiring. 7 years ago, there were 140 families that were homeless in our community. And you think about that, 140 families that were homeless in our community. And with hard work and dedication, I am pleased and excited to say that that number has declined to 60 families that were homeless in 2019. That's tremendous progress, but that's still 60 families too many. Every child deserves a home. I'm also proud to share that recidivism for families in the Road Home is down to 5%. That means 95% of the families that were in programs with the Road Home have remained in stable housing in 2019. Just fantastic and amazing results. And it is my honor today to ask you to join our team of supporters. This fundraising event makes up almost a quarter of our annual operating budget. Raising funds are critical to continuing our programs to support families like Ari's. Now more than ever, your donations help fight injustices in housing and help us find equitable solutions. I had the opportunity over the past couple of weeks to connect with staff members in the Road Home, Joshua Jackson and Allison Grant, and we talked about the key areas that they were seeing as they work with families in the Road Home. One of the topics we spent the most time talking through was the daily impacts that they see around homelessness. The stress around tasks that many of us take for granted. They shared an example of parents and children struggling to find internet connections, things that we take for granted. They discussed examples of having to sit outside of a library to get internet connection. Imagine the difficulty of doing schoolwork without internet connections in today's environment. These challenges would be difficult any day, but when you add the impacts that COVID and this pandemic are having on top of that, it's unbelievable the challenges that we're seeing out there. It has never been more important for us to come together as a community to solve these issues. I want to thank our generous sponsors and thank those who have already made leadership gifts. We are well on our way towards our fundraising goal. And we're asking for you to please join these companies and individuals, along with our dedicated staff, working tirelessly every day to help end homelessness and make a donation today. Some examples of the impacts that you can make with your donations include a $100 donation, which would provide 1 month of utility assistance. A $250 donation provides 2 months of case management for one family. A $500 donation can help with rental assistance and help families maintain stable housing. A $1,000 donation helps one child move from homelessness to housing. Reoccurring donations, be it monthly, quarterly, or annually, help sustain our programs. So please consider that option if you can. Soon you'll see a link in the chat that will take you directly to our website for donations if you're giving with a credit card. My wife Tara and I are members of the Homes for Families Society, a giving group of people who commit $1,000 over a 5-year period. If you are in a position to consider joining Homes for Families Society, we invite you and encourage you to use the second link in the chat that will take you to a pledge form. Please also use this link if you wish to give via stock through a donation advised fund, or if you're mailing in a check. And please consider utilizing your employer. Many employers have matching programs, and if you're able to do that where you give and your employer matches, we appreciate that process as well. If you're a current Homes for Families Society member, we thank you for your support, and we hope you'll consider extending your pledge by using the second link as well. And I will wrap up today with a huge thank you. Thank you for joining us today, and please know that any amount that you can give will help our efforts to strengthen families and strengthen our communities. Please follow us on social media as well, where you'll have a chance to see some posts about today's events. And we'd also love it if you'd share your thoughts and share your pictures and your support of today's event on social media. Thank you for your generous support of the Road Home. This concludes our program, and you should now see the links that I had mentioned earlier in your chat function. And you can always donate or learn more about the Road Home through our website, www.trhome.org. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you again for your support of the Road Home. And thank you again for keeping people like Ari and his son in your thoughts as we continue to fight homelessness in our community. Have a great day.